To this point, now we're in 2010, 2012. Obviously, now you're not going to have that. But do you remember the first time you were super starstruck, and how did you compose yourself? Because it's intimidating when you're working with celebrities. It's one thing to see somebody, but now you're reading lines and you're doing your job with these people. I mean, did you ever have a situation like that?
Oh yeah, it happens in fits and starts sometimes, and I really think that most actors should probably admit if it's someone they really respect and admire, it'll be like that for the rest of our lives. You'll still get a little starry-eyed if it's someone that you just really respect their work. I don't know if it happened in 2010, but I did an independent feature film shot in Michigan, actually, starring myself, but co-starring the recently late and great Tom Sizemore. And Tom Sizemore, the first time I saw him on set, it was a scene with me outside of the car, and he rolls down the window, and there he is. And I hadn't seen one piece of him until they said action. They roll down the window, and Tom has the first line. Thank God he had the first line. So the camera was on him anyways. But he rolls down the window, and he just starts delivering his lines right to me, and I'm just like, oh, my God, Saving Private Ryan, and everything else he's done. I was starstruck because of all, he's had a lot of personal issues in his life, but sweet Jesus, that guy's a good actor. And you could see at the moment he started talking, I was like, fuck, I am in it with this guy already. It's that good.
I'm being honest. I have a question specifically about Tom Sizemore later, so I guess I'll jump into this because there's a couple things I want to ask about. He's from my hometown. He grew up in Detroit and Utica. He had separate parents, and one lived in Detroit, one lived in Utica. But I did want to ask you about that because, well, before we get that, we were talking about what a great actor he is. One of my favorite Tom Sizemore scenes, he doesn't say a word. It's in Heat. Sure. It's in Heat, and they're in the booth at the restaurant, and De Niro just smacks that guy, and there's a guy behind him, and Sizemore just goes, leans over like, what the fuck are you looking at? Mind your business. And he didn't say a word, and I'm like, that's Tom Sizemore. Tom Sizemore might be one of the most underrated actors of all time. So, to that point, what was it like working with him? Because it looks like you guys got to be a little friendly, no?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's just about every scene that he had in the movie was with me. Right? I can't think of anything I've done where I worked with just one character.
Just so my listeners know, what picture are you talking about, Larry?
Sure. The movie's called Made Vicious. Sadly, it's still in post-production, but I do think it'll see the light of day at some point in the next year or so. Hopefully, fingers crossed. It's a funding issue. They're just finishing up and everything. But Tom, the part of me wants to say a bull in a china shop. The other part of me wants to say that you have to watch him because you don't know what the fuck that guy is going to do in the scene. He rewrites it as he goes along.
Wow.
Almost every scene. And there was one in particular. We were in Grand Rapids shooting outside of GR. And a very high climactic scene where there's a little girl that he kidnapped who's my daughter, and he's holding her hostage until I pay him and yada, yada, yada. Tom didn't like the way any of the scene was written. So he storms out in the middle of the shooting. He just stops, goes out, and he sits on the front porch, and he smokes a cigarette. And I come up to him, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, we got to, come on. And he's like, I don't like the way it's written, blah, blah, blah. And I should say this and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, just do it. He's like, but it's not, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, just whatever you do, I'm right there with you. Like, we will figure it out. Like, we know where the scene kind of needs to go. Wow. Just do the shit, and let's do it. And he and I went back in there, and I'm like on the edge of my seat wondering if, I didn't know if he was going to try to kill the kid or try to kill. I didn't know what he was going to do. And it turned out to be one of the best scenes in the movie as far as tension, suspense, because no one, including me or him, knew what the hell he was going to do in that. He made up words. I made up words. It was great.